Alright, in this video I'm going to teach you the wild technique for lucid dreaming. Don't close this tab. If you want to learn how to lucid dream tonight, the wild is probably the fastest way that I know how. However, it's not for beginners, and so if you're looking for a way of lucid dreaming for beginners, then I would advise something like the mild, the dialed, or something like a combination of those two. The wild is for people who know what lucid dreaming is, maybe you've had one or two, and you just want to have a reliable way of entering a lucid dream without having to worry about, mantras, affirmations, that sort of thing. You wanted to do something directly to induce a lucid dream. Now, I did actually make a video about this before, a few years ago, but it just wasn't detailed enough. And so this tutorial, this wild tutorial, is going to focus on people who have trouble going back to sleep, or who have trouble falling asleep in the first place. By the way, before we get into this video, if you want to see more tutorials and advice like this on lucid dreaming, just click the subscribe button, turn on the notifications, and leave a comment. One of the things that you'll notice about the wild technique, and I'll explain it in a second, is that it involves you being able to fall asleep. And so I'm going to share a few tips at the end, or ways you can fall asleep faster, ways you can make yourself more tired so you're more likely to actually enter the dream and have a lucid dream. So first I'm just going to start by explaining the actual technique, and then at the end of that I'm going to tell you how to fall asleep if you find it hard, and some other tips as well. So the wild really feels like a sort of hack, and what you're really trying to do, the aim with the wild technique, is to let your body fall asleep while your mind stays awake. And because your mind stays awake, you actually enter the lucid dream directly, and you're already lucid because you never went to sleep. Now the benefit is, it's pretty much the most vivid type of lucid dream that you can achieve, is the wild lucid dream. Because you're going straight from a conscious aware state when you're awake to actually being in a lucid dream, because there's a transition period here, which means that your mind stays awake throughout that period. It's very vivid. It feels very much like real life, and you really don't notice a difference between waking life and the dream. So it's very exciting. It feels like you're stepping into a lucid dream directly. So here's how you do it. Step 1. Relax in the corpse pose. This is going to be on your back or on your side. You can do this on your side. I would actually advise laying on your side, but you can also just lay flat on your back. Now, once you're laying flat on your back, let go of everything. Relax your muscles, and at this point there's different techniques for this, but you can use like the 61-point relaxation technique, or a more simple way is just to think about your different limbs and body parts. So for example, start with your legs, make sure your legs are relaxed, focus on that sensation. Then focus on your torso, your abs, your stomach, relax that. Then your chest, then your arms, your head, neck, face, and so on. It really does it really is important to focus on relaxing each body part separately, because if you just try and relax your whole body, what will happen is you'll relax the big limbs, legs and arms, but you will hold tension in other areas without being aware of it. For example, most people hold tension in their neck, in their jaw, in their throat. So if you really focus on these areas one by one, you get a more full relaxation. This is a very commonly known technique. Alright, so the next thing is you need to focus on your eyelids. So once your muscles are relaxed and you're basically laying there on your back or on your side, focus on your eyelids. Focus on your eyelids and try and see shapes, patterns, colours. Eventually you will actually see these things. It's called hypnagogia, or hypnagogic imagery. And it's the sort of imagery that your brain creates for you while you're starting to fall asleep. Now, all the way through this is very important, and especially if you've been tired during the day, which we'll get onto that. It's very important to keep your focus on making sure you don't fall asleep. If you fall asleep, you'll just have a normal dream, or you'll just have a normal night's sleep. That's not the goal here. The goal is to keep your mind awake. So for the whole time, focus on telling yourself, I am awake, and hold that awareness in your head. If you've ever been on a long road trip and you want to stay awake and just sort of look out and look at the scenery as you're going, you're sort of fighting the urge to fall asleep. So it's similar to that. You're fighting the urge to fall asleep, but at the same time, you're making sure that your body, your muscles are completely relaxed. Now this is where a lot of you are going to say, okay, well this is a bit of a big jump here, but step 3 is to literally create the dream scene. Now I know you're probably thinking, well, how do I go from just laying there to creating the dream scene? The key is you need to make sure your muscles are completely relaxed, and you need to stay in the hypnagogic imagery state long enough that a dream will start forming in front of your eyes, or in your head. And this period of time takes between 5 and 50 minutes. It can take up to an hour, but it can also, if you're tired enough, it can also take much less time. It can take less than 5 minutes in some cases, and that depends on when you're doing it. And this is a key point which I really want to make sure you understand. The wild technique can be done at any time. It can be done any time of night, even when you first go to sleep. The earlier in the night you try the technique, the longer it will take to enter the dream. So for example, if you go to sleep and straight away your first thing that you try and do is have a wild lucid dream, it might take up to an hour, it might even take an hour and a half to get into the REM sleep stage where you're actually going to have the lucid dream. Whereas if you do it in the early hours of the morning, and when you do it like that, it's called the wake back to bed. If you do that, you're much more likely to have a lucid dream, and it will happen within seconds or even minutes. So the technique stays the same, what you're doing stays the same, but it will take different lengths of time to work depending on when in the night you try it. Very important point, I think a lot of people miss that. So what will happen is, let's assume that you're doing it in the early hours of the morning, okay, so you've just had 4 to 6 hours of normal sleep, you've woken up and then you've gone back to sleep, or you've tried to go back to bed while doing this technique, okay, so you've relaxed your muscles, you've focused on your eyelids, you've seen the hypnagogic imagery, the patterns, shapes, and this doesn't happen for everyone, but what I'm trying to say is you've laid there without moving while keeping your mind focused and aware. If you do that long enough, and in the early hours of the morning, it won't take long, just a few minutes. If you do that long enough, you will start to see what I call flashes of lucidity, glimpses of the dream scene. It might be just like a quick image of a bridge, and by the time you realise that you're looking at a bridge, it fades away into blackness. And then it happens again, and you're walking through a street, but by the time, in the second that you realise you're walking down a street, it fades back into darkness again. Now, this is actually quite frustrating, but it lets you know you're on the right track. So when this starts to happen, try and just relax. Try and not look at a particular detail in the dream scene, because if you do that, it will, unless you're already lucid, it will start to fade. So try and just focus on relaxing and experiencing the dream scene, while at the same time telling yourself, I am lucid, maintaining that awareness and that focus on staying awake. And that's pretty much it. That is how to do the wild lucid dream, the wake-induced lucid dream. And if you do that, you should have a lucid dream tonight. However, like I said, it's not for beginners. Now, I said at the start of this video I would explain some more tips at the end. This is a more detailed tutorial on the wild. I made a video before, it wasn't that detailed, terrible quality, it was old, okay? So here are some tips on doing the wild. Number 1, you really need to do it at the right time of day, or the right time of night, I should say. It won't be as effective if you do it as soon as you go to sleep at night, because you haven't had deep sleep stages, you haven't had that relaxation. And your REM sleep stage will be much shorter. The shortest it will be is when you first go to bed. And then just before you wake up, the last sleep cycle of the night, it will be the longest. So I made another video about sleep cycles, you can check that out in the description, go and watch that. But in a nutshell, you have 5 to 6 90-minute sleep cycles. Within each sleep cycle, you have 4 sleep stages. Stage 1, light sleep, and then transitionary sleep, deep sleep, and then at the end of the sleep cycle, REM sleep, which is where most lucid dreams and dreaming happens. The REM sleep stage within each sleep cycle gets longer and longer as you get closer to waking up. So in the last sleep cycle of the night, your REM sleep is at its longest, meaning you have more chance of lucid dreaming, you have more chance of having a dream in general and remembering it. And you're more likely to be able to interrupt that REM sleep with something like the wake back to bed technique. So for example, in the last sleep cycle of the night, you set your alarm to wake you up after 6 hours of sleep. You interrupt that last sleep cycle, and if you try at that point to have a wild, wake-induced lucid dream, you're far more likely, probably 10 to 20 times more likely to have a lucid dream then than any other time in the night. Tip number 2, you can do this during the daytime. Here's how it works. If you have a nap during the day, what will usually happen is you will experience like a micro sleep, especially if you have a 90-minute nap or a 20-minute nap or something like this. Sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes, depending on how tired you are, your body will jump straight to REM sleep. When it does this, it's very easy to lucid dream. So you can imagine how, and this explains also why, if you've ever had a random daytime nap, if you've been so tired, it's often you often experience this if you're travelling. Maybe you haven't slept all night, you've woken up at 3 AM to catch an early flight or something, and you find yourself sleeping on the coach, or when you finally get to the hotel room, you have a nap. More often than not, you experience really crazy, vivid dreams very quickly when you have these naps. At least I do, and I know other people do as well. And I believe it's because of that. I believe it's because when the body is deprived of sleep, or deprived of REM sleep, I should say, you experience what's called REM rebound, which is where the body is so desperate for REM sleep and deep sleep that it just immediately jumps to those stages. And it can do this very quickly, it can do this within a few minutes. So you can have a wild lucid dream during the daytime, but it's not as reliable. The most reliable way is to have a regular sleep pattern where you sleep 8 to 9 hours at the same times every day, even on weekends, and you interrupt that pattern with the wake back to bed technique, which is going to target the last 90 minutes of your sleep. At that point, you try and have a lucid dream using the wild technique. That's by far the most effective way of using this technique, but there are other ways, of course. Number 3, it really helps to do reality checks throughout the day as you're doing this technique. And a good way of doing that is to get a simple fitness tracker, like I've shown in previous videos. I have a really simple fitness tracker which will vibrate at random times to tell you to move. Now obviously this is supposed to get you to increase your step count and be active during the day, but you can also double that up and just reality check as soon as it vibrates. It's a very powerful way of training yourself, especially if you can actually use this in the night time as well. You can, for example, decide what times of day the fitness tracker will vibrate. So I've actually set mine to vibrate between the hours of 3 AM or 4 AM I think until 9 PM at night. So what happens is all day long I'm training myself by doing a reality check every time it vibrates to respond to that vibration signal, that haptic vibration, by doing a reality check. Every time it happens I do it, and so what I'm hoping will happen is that it will vibrate in the dream, because like I said, the longest period of REM sleep is in the early hours of the morning. So it will start vibrating at 4 AM randomly every half an hour roughly, and it will vibrate in the dream, and that will cause me to do a reality check and become lucid. That's my goal anyway. I've only just started this idea, but I'll let you know how it goes. I'll also be making other videos about the layer 5 lucid dreams, my experiences, my astral projection experiences. I've been reading your comments, don't worry. So that's it. And so the last tip, I guess, is a bit of a resource or a tool that you can use, which I have been using for a while, and that is to use a supplement called MindLab Pro. MindLab Pro is a nootropic. Let me just show you actually. MindLab Pro is a nootropic, which you can see here. I have made other videos about this, but they don't really they go into more detail in the other videos. I'm not going to go into too much detail here. But basically MindLab Pro in particular contains vitamin B6 in a high dosage. Vitamin B6 is very good for dream recall and memory. There's also other ingredients like lion's mane mushroom and all sorts of other naturally sourced nootropic ingredients which will help to raise your awareness, your cognitive function, your ability to become lucid. This will all be improved, as well as your creativity and your sleep as well. So I would highly encourage you to check out MindLab Pro. There's a link in the description, and I hope you've enjoyed this wild tutorial. Don't go just yet. I'm going to just explain a few more things that you can do. If you want to get more out of your meditation in the mornings, I would suggest getting a mind machine. I have other videos explaining what these are, again in the description. Beyond that, the wild technique is not for beginners, it's for advanced lucid dreamers who just want to reliably have a lucid dream when they want it. What I would suggest to do is to check out my videos on the mild and the dialed techniques. There'll be links to these in the description, as I said. Make sure to subscribe, turn on the notifications.
Thanks for watching, guys. This video and this channel was supported by my Patreon followers. Please consider giving just $1 a month to support this channel, or just click the links in the description. You'll find links to various lucid dreaming products, articles, techniques and tutorials. If you did enjoy this video, please click the notification bell and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Why are you still watching this? You should have clicked one of my related videos by now, right? Or subscribed, or gone onto my website or something like that.